But then there is also the huge under-18 market. And there's a great statistic the BBC found that anyone under 18 either owns a console or has access to console. That's 100% penetration. And that still kind of freaks me out that there is 100% penetration. Everyone is a gamer. And as that 18-year-old bar just raises, that's going to affect policy decisions and later life. This is a game called SingStar. And again, this is some of the examples where games themselves are exploding out into much more wider spaces. With PlayStation 3, SingStar isn't about getting a disc and putting it in your machine and playing a game. SingStar is now being able to download one of, I think it's about 30,000 tracks. Okay, I want to sing along to, I don't know, Madonna, but I Like a Virgin. I can download that now, I can sing it, I can record the video, and I can challenge somebody else in Korea now to that contest. And the games, there's a game called Rock Band where you can play the guitar along to it, just like it's a karaoke game. It's taking those really base emotions that we talked about this morning, the deep emotions, and allowing them to be played with other people, or allowing new variants of those experiences. And I also think that things like Facebook is very much an example of how that gaming feeling is becoming more and more prevalent in things we do. Facebook, I always think there's three types of people on Facebook. There are people who keep their friends very, very small and they just have a family. There are people who extend that to kind of professional relationships. And then there are the sort of Pokemon players. People who have to have 500 plus friends. And they don't care who you are, they'll grade you as a friend, and they're just trying to build up their friendships. And next time you see them, they can say, "Have you seen my friends list? I don't know you, I know, I'm Rheingold." And it's about just increasing it wider and wider. But there is a kind of play-like essence into this. And every time I go on Facebook, I don't know quite what's going to be there. I don't know what the challenges are going to be when I'm going to open up Facebook. But there are more and more experiences that definitely reflect what's happening in the game world. How am I doing for time? You good. Okay. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of stuff in terms of where companies are and about the maturity of companies. The companies at the moment has been a real challenge, especially within the UK over the last couple of years. The games industry itself, everyone always talks about is the games industry. Talk about games industry, we just talk about numbers. And I tried very hard not to talk about numbers today. I didn't want to talk about the export value and the effect of GDP, and I said I wouldn't put a chart in, but I thought I'd slip one in there from a point of context. Because the industry, yes, the industry is doing well, yes, the industry is doing really, really well, but games are getting harder and harder to make. That increase in terms of production value, that increase in what people expect, is making games more expensive. Games these days are made by 200 plus people. They take 2 to 4 years to make. They're far more like big film blockbusters. And if it costs that amount of money, if it costs 10, 20, 30 million pounds to make a game, how many of those have you got to sell? And if you look at the chart of actually how many do sell, Halo 3, it will sell loads. I mean, that's a really simple statement, but it will sell loads. Grand Theft Auto will sell loads. But those hits make up for probably 8 other titles that didn't do very well. You need to sell at least 800,000 items of a single unit of a game to make a profit. So there's a lot of content being generated, there's a lot of development time, there's a lot of innovation put in that doesn't necessarily make money. And in terms of the UK, there's been an interesting knock-on effect of that. Probably 3 years ago, we had over 400 companies, 400 development companies in the UK. With our estimations, we think that's about down to 150. So which is a huge impact on the total number of companies. But the total number of people making games has increased by about 20%. Because there's been this explosion, just as there was a TV industry in the 80s, of companies coming together, of companies developing new product, and finding new ways to break the molds. So yes, these are really expensive games, but if these are really expensive games, and we can't afford to make a new one, can we break that model? And there are examples of people completely doing things which supposedly shouldn't have been possible. This is a game called Defcon by a company, Bright Version. There's only 4 of them. They do. We were talking earlier about why do we work 4 days but not 6 days? Because in a capitalist society there will always be somebody who works 7 days, 24 hours a day. And these 4 guys, the hardest working guys in the games industry, Rolling Stones or something. And these guys, they make very, very small, very, very focused games. they make them, and they actually distribute from their garage, and they're going to keep distributing from the garage, and it's their spin, if you like, their pretense that they are the last backroom coder. The reality is they're all goldsmiths graduates, and they're all very, very, very clever, and their dad funds them. But it's about finding a model and seeing if you can find alternatives. This is a company called Media Molecule, who have just launched this amazing game on PlayStation 3, or about to launch this amazing game on PlayStation 3, that's purely user-generated content. They have not developed any content whatsoever for the game. You choose one of these characters, and you choose an environment, and you pack it with various challenges, and you have to use a skateboard to get over them or swing, but it's completely you developing the content. So the cost of that is all being in what they call the engine rather than the content itself. This is Heavenly Sword, which is launched on PlayStation 3. This was developed in conjunction with Weta Studios, the Lord of the Rings guys, the guy Andy Serkis who did Golden Diddle and Mocap. There's loads of people that have been part of this because they wanted to be involved in games, not because they thought they'd make lots of money out of it, and they've taken a lot of the knowledge and innovation and go to the film industry and wholesale moved that into a game environment to see what would happen. Personally, I think it's a very good game, it's very critical. And another example is a company in Derby called Free Radical that have worked ways of doing what they call procedural content. So they don't draw these trees, they don't draw the rocks, they just work out an algorithm that says if a tree needs this tall, it needs to have these bushes, and these green bits, and these brown bits, and it should look like that. And the machine generates itself. So every time you go into an environment, they're always completely different. And that reduces the amount of content you need to develop again. You don't need to actually ever draw an environment, as long as you know what the algorithm is. So on and so forth. And again, there's another company called Motorstone, based in Liverpool, who just... Another good example of a British company who launched the PlayStation 3. Using preview is never really the best example, using the slides. But similarly, there's always another side, and one of the challenges the UK has faced is all this innovation, all this knowledge, all this design, all this intelligence we have in this country is of huge value to the big dollars. So a lot of the big companies have been bought. Rare, Leamington have been bought by Microsoft recently. EA, the world's biggest company, games company, they've got offices in Chertsey, just continually buying up UK companies because they have the might. Rockstar, who developed Grand Theft Auto, based up in Scotland and Leeds, one of the biggest selling games other than Halo, developed by the UK, owned by the US. Disney, and I think this is an interesting example because both Warner Brothers, Disney and Viacom have all started saying, well, we realise that there's a lot of money to be made in this industry, we're going to move in wholesale with the biggest checkbook you've ever seen, and wholesale buying up companies again. So when we talked about Electronic Arts, we always thought they were the biggest company we would see, but now the traditional media giants moving in, things are going to change again, and suddenly Electronic Arts aren't seen as the biggest players. And sadly, IDOS, or this is Lara Croft's bum, who's representing IDOS and SCI, we're the last kind of UK publisher we have. If they're bought, then we won't have any more publishers, any more people actually deciding the games are going to be made. And it's pretty much on the cards that they'll be sold over the next month or so. So I just wanted to finalise point is that we always have a lot of discussion about interactive entertainment and about film and about the challenges of why can't we be as big as film, or why can't we be film? And my argument was always, it's a null argument. It's an argument we should never discuss, in that film and TV and interactive entertainment are two completely different things. Film and television has spent a whole century building up to where we are now. There are so many more emotions that we can do with interactive entertainment. There are so many more emotions and more stories that we can tell in different ways. Thank you very much.